Hey, what's going on everybody? It's Stu Leo and welcome to another video about acid reflux. In this video, I want to talk about the lower esophageal sphincter. A lot of people say that once you have issues with the lower esophageal sphincter, it's forever, right? It's permanent. Let me tell you right now, it's complete hogwash for the most part. Let me show you why. So, to refresh your memory, if you don't know what the lower esophageal sphincter is, it's a muscle in between the stomach and the lower esophagus, and it lets food up when you need to throw up or regurgitate, and it lets food down, obviously, when you swallow. Okay, so it's a muscle that opens to let food up and down. Now, take a look at this muscle. This is the diaphragm. The diaphragm surrounds the esophagus. The esophagus runs through this hole right here. And get this, the diaphragm helps control the LES. Okay, I'll say that again. The diaphragm helps control the LES because it surrounds it, and as you breathe with the diaphragm, it actually pinches on the esophagus and puts pressure on it to close. Now, let me show you some studies that back this up, because this is heavy into the literature and it kind of annoys me that a lot of people aren't talking about this, okay? This says electrical and mechanical activity in the human lower esophageal sphincter during diaphragmatic contraction. It says, we conclude that the contraction of the diaphragm exerts a sphincteric action at the LES and that this effect is an important component of the anti-reflux barrier. The diaphragm is part of the anti-reflux barrier. Let me show you another study. This one, or rather the same study just continued. This one says crural diaphragm may be thought of as an external lower esophageal sphincter. How many of you guys have heard that before, that the diaphragm is actually an external lower esophageal sphincter? No one told me about that when I was going through acid reflux. This one says during diaphragmatic contraction, the pressure is considerably higher. Our study shows that it is during this period that the LES pressure is augmented. Again, when you breathe with the diaphragm, the LES pressure rises, and is augmented. It's basic anatomy. Let's look at this one. This one studied low back pain and gastroesophageal reflux. It says if inhalation is forced, there is a shrinkage of the esophageal diameter caused by the shrinkage of the crus itself due to the major contraction of the muscular fibers of the pillars of the diaphragm. When you force inhalation, there's a shrinkage of esophageal diameter. You can't get any more clear than that. Let me go back a few slides. When you contract the diaphragm, this diameter shrinks. Okay, the diaphragm helps control the LES, and it's frustrating because not enough people know about this. A lot of people get the Nissen fundification, and a lot of them don't know that if they were just to lose a bit of weight or lessen the fat around the diaphragm, it would help out a lot. And I'll talk about that in a minute. Let's go over to this study here. So on one hand, the LES and intrinsic structure is directly related to the muscle fibers of the organ and responds to neural, hormonal, physiologic command. On the other hand, is an anatomic entity, talking about the LES and the diaphragm now, centered by the crura of the diaphragm, closely related to the movements of respiration. The LES diaphragm is related to breathing, respiration, that's what that means. These structures constitute a second extrinsic sphincter that gives rise to the zone of high pressure in the terminal esophagus. There it is again, a second extrinsic sphincter, meaning the diaphragm. The diaphragm is the second sphincter. Again, the diaphragm, this entire muscle right here, surrounds the lower esophagus, and it acts, in fact, as a second sphincter. Okay? It helps control the LES. Don't let anyone ever tell you that once the lower esophageal sphincter breaks, it breaks for good. Okay? It's just complete hogwash for the most part. Now, I just want to show you some pictures of the diaphragm, and notice how close it is to the stomach. It's very close. That's why when you get a lot of belly fat around this area, it hampers diaphragmatic contraction. It's harder to breathe, and we know this if you've ever been obese like I was. It's harder to breathe. That's why people who are obese tend to suffer from sleep apnea as well. When your cavities, and also the chest cavity right here, abdominal cavity, when these cavities fill with fat, that is when your diaphragm is it has to work harder, and sometimes it doesn't contract properly. And that's why you get acid reflux. And if that weren't enough, here's another study about the positive effect of abdominal breathing exercise on gastroesophageal reflux. So they did studies on this to have people with reflux breathe with their diaphragm, and they got positive results. It says, we showed that actively training the diaphragm by breathing exercise can improve GERD as assessed by pH metry, QOL scores, and PPI usage. All right, so that's fact. That's fact that when you train the diaphragm, it helps with GERD. Now, of course, the better thing to do would, of course, train the diaphragm, but also lose as much weight as you possibly can. That way, the diaphragm is free to contract, and there's nothing hampering it. So the popular line of thinking that there is no hope once the LES breaks its permanent damage is, for the most part, false. Okay, it's false. And why do I say for the most part? I say for the most part because some people who are like super obese and who have a lot of belly fat, their diaphragm may be hampered, okay? It might be constricted and you can't breathe with your diaphragm. You can't contract that muscle as well. And that's why you may get more reflux. But for a lot of people, breathing with your diaphragm can actually help loads, okay? So it is, in fact, a fact that the diaphragm influences the LES. So this is the LES right around here. This is the diaphragm. Again, notice that the diaphragm surrounds the esophagus. The esophagus runs through the diaphragm, which is here and here. And when you breathe with your diaphragm, it tightens the LES, it raises the pressure. So don't let anyone ever tell you that once the LES breaks, it breaks for good, because that is, for the most part, untrue. Okay, so now I want to show you 2 exercises you can do to practice diaphragmatic breathing, because it doesn't come naturally for a lot of people, unfortunately, because of shallow breathing and maybe other factors like stress. Okay, so I'm now standing up to show you what this exercise looks like, so you can see my chest and my stomach at the same time. So this is a popular one, but what you do is you try not to move the hand on your chest, and you try to move the hand on your stomach out, okay? So it looks like this. That would be proper breathing. Let me turn to the side so you can see it better. Now, my diaphragm doesn't move out very much because I had asthma as a baby, and I think I have underdeveloped lungs. But your stomach should move out a lot more. Okay, let me show you real quickly what it looks like if you were to do this exercise improperly. An improper way to do this would be to move the hand on your chest, because that's shallow breathing and that doesn't activate the diaphragm as much, okay? So this is what you don't want to do. This is what you do want to do. Move the hand on your stomach, on your diaphragm, out. Okay, so the second exercise I want to show you is called the rock. And what you're going to do is you're going to put both hands on your stomach. You're going to rock back. And as you rock back, you're going to breathe out. So through your nose, by the way, and you're going to go. And then as you rock forward, you're going to breathe in. And as you rock forward and breathe in, I want you to breathe with your diaphragm. You can imagine breathing your diaphragm as breathing down and out. So down and out, and your stomach should move. You should feel it. Okay, so this is how it looks. You're going to rock back, breathe in, down and out, rock back in, rock forward, breathe down and out. So it looks like this. Just breathing with your diaphragm can seem difficult at first, because I think for a lot of people, we typically breathe with the diaphragm and the chest. But in order to sort of focus your attention on the diaphragm so you can really tighten that LES, it's good just to focus on breathing with your diaphragm and not necessarily your chest, okay? And something that's really helped me breathe more easily with my diaphragm is, I want you to imagine breathing down, okay? It's kind of weird, I know, but imagine breathing down and out. So as you're breathing, just imagine breathing down. And once you make that sort of mental connection, your diaphragm should contract more easily, because if you think about what's up, right, it's your chest, but what's down is your stomach. So next time you get an acid reflux attack, I want you to try breathing with your diaphragm. What you're going to do is you're going to try to suck your tongue to the roof of your mouth like this. I don't know if you can see me, but try doing that so that your mouth stays closed, because when we open our mouths, that tends to encourage reflux. When you close your mouth, it's going to help with that. So close your mouth and then breathe with your diaphragm. You do it a couple times and you should be able to vent gas, and this should help with the reflux, because remember again that when the diaphragm contracts, it tightens the lower esophageal sphincter. So don't let anyone ever tell you that once the lower esophageal sphincter breaks, quote unquote, whatever that means, it breaks for good, because the research is saying no. In fact, the diaphragm will help tighten that lower esophageal sphincter. So this is Stu Leo. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you like this video, please give it a like down there, subscribe to this channel, and share this video with a friend to get the word out. And I'll see you in the next video.